Hello and welcome everybody to the stream. This is probably the first of a bigger series that's going to take place over the next few weeks and months. And the reason I've set this stream up with myself, obviously, and some friends and colleagues from around the industry is I wanted to help, whether it be learning functions or people trying to create content to serve up to an audience. I wanted to help them transform their content digitally. And the reason that we're all going through a big period of change, COVID-19 or coronavirus is hitting everybody hard, some in their wallets, some in terms of their capability to do their job properly. And what this isn't is it's not about the platform, it's not about the specifics of the tools that you use. It's more about a set of guidance and advice on how you might go about some challenges. Or solving those challenges. What I would like is for this to be an open conversation. I would love it if you could all post into the chat as we talk. I have a guest with me today, Laura Overton, who I shall introduce in a moment. But I would love us for this to be open. This is a stream at the end of the day. This is not designed to be a webinar that you sit on for 45 minutes with little interaction until a Q&A session at the end. This is an interactive discussion. So feel free to post into the chat, add your thoughts and comments, and also provide some guidance on where you want this to go for future posts or future streams. We have a schedule ready to go for this, but really we want to be guided by yourselves because you, the audience, are the ones that we're trying to help in terms of providing some insight and some guidance. Without much further ado, I shall introduce Laura, but before I do, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Tom Ridley. I've been working in the industry for probably somewhere in the region of about 15 years now, predominantly in a role where I've been advising learning and development functions and instructional design teams on how they might create content and serve that up, particularly when it comes to digital content, platforms and technology. So that's the reason why I'm here in the role that I am today. Without much further ado, I shall introduce my co-host for the day, or my guest, Laura Overton. Apologies, Laura, I am not showing your screen.
Hey Tom, that's no worries. It's really good to be joining with you right now. It's exciting times, and 15 years in the industry, I get that. For the last 15 years, I've been doing how learning technologies can really help organisations deliver change and deliver kind of new value back into the organisation. But I was also working in the industry for 15 years prior to that as well, in terms of helping individuals actually embrace online learning. And I've never seen such an incredible rush into this field, and it both worries and excites me, Tom. For the people in our industry and for the opportunity that we have to really make a difference to those who are battling change right now. So it's great that you're running this series, and it's a real privilege to be part of that with you.
Thank you. So as I said, everybody, please post into the chat. We are monitoring it. If you see me moving around, it's because I'm talking to everybody here. I'm monitoring the stream and the chat that's going on, so don't be too distracted by me. As I said, please post your comments into there. So I suppose let's kick off with a question for you, Laura. What's been the biggest change or challenge in learning that you've seen over the last few weeks since this COVID crisis has hit the world?
Well, I think that for me, I've been really quietly and somberly observing what's been going on, because clearly it's been so much fundamental change to individuals, to workplaces, to families. And I've been really sort of somberly reflecting on that. And I think that there are a number of things from a learning point of view. There has clearly been a rush initially. How do we get content online? Whether it's school teachers, having to send their classes home with just 2 days notice, and yet still caring for those classes, or whether it's classroom trainers suddenly our workplaces, I was just talking yesterday to somebody, our workplaces have become, traditional workplaces have become illegal in some countries. And that's really very shocking. It's very frightening for any of us to have our worlds massively disrupted. So the desire to respond positively and to take that has clearly been something that I've been observing. I'm just noticing here also that the chat potentially might be disconnected. People at the moment, I'm looking at it from my perspective, because I would love to know how this is actually affecting other people as well. But I'm also seeing as well that over the first few weeks, it was a case of, oh, how do I get the content online? But equally, the kind of the shock is setting in, and some very close colleagues of mine are starting to realise that perhaps learning and development in some places is being furloughed, where organisations aren't seeing the immediate value that they can offer back to that situation. So there's a lot of changes that we're seeing at the moment, and I'm also seeing in the industry as well, rightly so, and I believe this is very important, really helpful guidance to say, okay, is this the time for us to perhaps question what we were doing and work out what it is we need to be as learning professionals in the future? And it's a great piece of work that's been put out by Lori Niles-Hofmann and Amanda Nolan on, how do we triage the learning and development requests that come through. These sort of things I think are also massively important. That there's a lot of change and a lot of emotional change that is kind of it breaks your heart, as well as giving us a sense of maybe we can do things together that we perhaps won't be able to do together before, and just encourage and support each other. So I love the concept of this chat.
Yeah, excellent. I noticed that we have a message in the chat from Hanu here, which is saying that now we've got the motivation interest also from the reluctant teachers and students, not just those that are up for it, which I suppose I was having this discussion the other day and with someone, and I was thinking about this, and really I think if there's anything positive to come out of this, at least within the industry that we operate in, it's that this is forcing change where change was, in my opinion, at least required. And at least it's helping people consider the fact that there are alternatives to just performing in a face-to-face way and operating in, or at least not necessarily just face-to-face, but one-dimensional. So there's got to be a positive somewhere in all this, I suppose. So we've also got Didier here. He says he says, thank you for organising. I'm working at a hospitality school. The hospitality education is usually blended. Considering the situation, how would we consider the learning? So, Didier, are you saying that by blended, you're saying that you have, obviously there's the face-to-face element as well as the online. How do you now move that face-to-face element into the online space? Is that the question? You can post up in chat. That would be great. And we'll come back to that if that's the case, Didier. So thank you for that improvement, that involvement. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. So Laura, do you want to field that one?
Yeah, because I think there's some obviously changes that have been going on in the workplace right now, and I think what's been interesting is to be able to look at that and understand what does that mean. So for Didier, your workplace, the people who are actually going to be leaving your learning and applying that back into the workplace, their workplaces are often closed down right now. And this kind of fundamental change in the workplace, I think, is really important. The context of our learning is really, really important, because training people up to do something that they can't apply immediately and therefore build that skill is very difficult. So I think when we're looking at learning, we have to really look at that context. I think some of the things that have changed in the context is one of the things actually that really appreciate this year, you flagging this, that Tom and I wanted to talk about, was the fact that what's changed the most in the work, I think, is the fact that there are new dimensions of work-life balance for some. There's clearly new dimensions of anxiety for some. There are new dimensions of community. People who physically can't be in the workplace are finding new ways of connecting with each. And I should imagine for an industry like hospitality, there's a really interesting role potentially for you to play with those people who are feeling very anxious about what does their life look like beyond this challenge. And I think when it comes down to creating learning opportunities, it might be just as important to connect people together, to connect them to not just learn about what they're doing right now, but learn about resilience in this environment. And so I think the context of our environment is really important in the way that we consider the value that we want to add to it. And hopefully some more in this chat will give you some more insights into this. But Tom, what else do you think?
It's a tough one. I mean, so if I take the specifics of blended. So it's the specifics of blended learning, but blended learning in general, it really does depend on the context in which you need to use it. I think the key here is trying to maintain as best as possible that keep the goal in mind. What was the purpose of the training in the first instance? Why did you have that piece face to face? There might be a real reason as to why that happened, but is it possible to simulate the same impact or at least have the same business result by doing it a different way? So really what I'd say there is embrace creativity. More often than not, there's more than one way to do something. It's just that we probably haven't thought of it yet or haven't had the need to think of a different approach. So throughout this series, we have a couple of things later on talking about how we might do that. And I may as well say it now, but we are going to be streaming. This stream's obviously taking place on a Wednesday, but moving forwards, we're going to stream every Tuesday and Thursday at the same time, 10 o'clock UK time. And the next stream, so next Tuesday, is actually on how you, from an instructional design perspective, might start to build in elements to transfer things to the digital space. So that specifically. So what I'd encourage you to do, DA, is listen as we continue, and then by all means get in contact with myself so that we can include some of the things that you'd like to hear into that next stream. That'd be excellent if you could do that. Details, I'm on LinkedIn, you can email me directly, anything like that, no problem. Okay. Where were we at? Oh, great. So another question, Laura, for you. What value can L&D bring to the workplace in this new changing world that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, I think this is a question actually that is also relevant to the challenge directly as well, because we really need to be thinking about what we want to be known for in this environment. And I think traditionally, I've been doing some work on a value continuum for learning and development teams. And traditionally, we perceive our value in terms of how people engage and connect with our learning solution, or how much efficiency that we can bring in. And often learning professionals find it very, very tough to actually say, this is what we've contributed back to business, or back to individual, or back to culture, although it's something that historically we've always aspired to do. And I think that really, because of the change in the workplace, it really allows us to have a different conversation with the businesses that we're, in what ways can I bring value to you? How can I help you right now? I was talking to the CEO of a company yesterday who said that the engagement in their learning had tripled 4-5 times over the last few weeks. So engagement in that process, in the process of learning, was massive. It was an alternative to Netflix. It was a way of connecting with people. It was incredible. But actually, when I asked him, I said, what value does that bring? He said, well, if we're here at the end of if we've sustained ourselves, then there's a contribution to that. If people are connected and motivated, there is a contribution to that. If people still feel ready and equipped and enabled to make their own individual, for example, with Didier, it's going to be a case of, how do we, what does that value look like now? And for Hannah as well, developing that virtual university, virtual learning in there, let's start aspiring to be able to contribute more, because I personally believe, having worked in industry for 50 years, this is This is what we're made for. This is what we do. We unlock the potential.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And let's not forget that at the end of the day, L&D has been delivering value to the business. I don't know if we've always been the best at shouting about the fact that we do, but there is now a need to, or probably a desire within business or organisations to actually show more than ever that that what they are putting in place is having an effect. So the time is perfect for us to show what we can do as a function within the business. So excellent. We have a few more people that have joined the stream, so thank you. Obviously, please post up in chat if you have any questions, queries, want to delve a little deeper on a certain subject. We've already got some people contributing, so feel free to do the same. Okay, Laura, so we're kind of touching on this, I think, already, and I've always said about that there being opportunities, but maybe we go into that a bit more detail. So what opportunities do you see for learning now, or those creating learning?
I think it gives us a chance if we're courageous enough to take it, and I understand that courage in these days it's tough because it's a very emotionally charged situation that we're in. But it gives us a chance to say, okay, what do I want? What output are needed from my activity? So rather than start on how do I automate and digitize what I used to be doing, or what I used to be doing is now more available to people remotely or disconnected from their normal workplaces. But it allows us to, instead of saying, oh, how do I digitize everything, it allows us to say, okay, what do we need to achieve? What outputs do I need to be looking at? And I think that is an opportunity that many of us struggle with. There's been a lot of conversation, good conversation about performance consulting, but performance consulting is one of the tools that we need to use. But it starts to say, okay, what do we need to achieve together in the business? You are running a virtual team. How can I help you work in that new environment? How can I help you build confidence? What is it that you need? What are you struggling with that's stopping you from performing in this new environment?
Yeah.
What are the tasks that you need? So let's get more task oriented and understand what's needed by our audience today, now, in this context, and what good will look like. Let's build a consensus. We have an opportunity to do that because everything's changing. So it almost gives us permission to say, okay, I know you're used to getting a course from us, but maybe there's something else that we could do better together. Maybe there's a better way for me supporting you. And let's start with what you need to achieve in this environment. So I think that's a massive opportunity for us, involved with learning, is to start having conversations about what really, really matters. And gives us an opportunity potentially then to become part of a business team. And I think that's really important as well because we're all in it together.
Yeah.
Reflecting on the conversation I had with that organisation yesterday, everybody is now, everyone in the organisation, from learning people to marketing people to sales people, they've got one common purpose: to survive this and to come out strong. And that common purpose, which they didn't have potentially in an organisation, is there. And so how do we, that gives us an opportunity as learning professionals as well. How can we work with people to tap into that common purpose, that common motivation, to help allay anxiety, to help build resilience in this world, and then help to reinvent what's moving forward? What are the new skills? How do we curate things? We may not have to. Let's curate things. Let's share conversations like these. And I think those are massively important new opportunities that are coming through. I mean, what opportunities are you seeing? Because I know, Tom, you're talking to a lot of people at the moment as well. Are you seeing people think differently or start to do things differently in response to this?
Yeah. So from my side of things, there's a definite. It's helping to solidify the strategy for people quicker than they would have done previously. That's the biggest change. So decisions are being made quicker. And that's down to the route that they want to take, either whether it's be the technology that they use or the way that they are, even the way that they're using the technology. So for a perfect example, in fact, it kind of relates to what Hanu's saying in the comments there about being afraid of new methods and tools. So some people are looking at this and thinking we can make L&D the center point for communication within the business internally and about helping to communicate change, whether that's within a learning situation or indeed just broader understanding of what's going on within the business and how that one area impacts another. So L&D are kind of like, well, and HR more broadly are in that position where they branch over all parts of a business. So they're so well placed to do that, but sometimes that isn't necessarily the case in a lot of organisations. So that's the big one, is how do they reach out to people? How do they connect to people? The other one is that I've seen a lot of vendors this time, and if we have any vendors watching, you may be in a similar situation, taking their content or offering which may not have been digital before and taking it digital, or alternatively trying to find ways to monetize that or to productize it so that it's more palatable to people that want to move quickly. So, at the moment, most people selling content into a provider will go through some RFP process or some process of essentially showing what their content can do, and that's taking too long in the current environment where we need to be putting something in place tomorrow or by the end of the week, not in 6 months' time when a big change project might take place. So the speed at which we need to move is dictating the actions that people are now taking. So, yeah. Anybody else?
I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
I think that there are some things that we need to do differently in this new world of work to kind of pay attention to that. And you just mentioned one, Tom, and that's about responding faster. I think also, Hannah, you're reflecting there as well that as learning professionals, some teachers are nervous and frightened of coming into these spaces, but probably we are starting to use these spaces to connect with our families now. We're starting to use tools like Zoom and sort of some of these tools like WhatsApp, more remote tools to live our normal lives and having to adapt very rapidly. And I think one of the things that we can do is actually help take fear away from those tools, build some confidence, build some courage, and probably talking, if we're creating learning for the new world of work, we have to invest in our learning professionals. We have to start to say, well, how do we build your courage? How do we build your confidence? Because the skills that we've had as learning professionals can be applied in new ways. What they can also do is enhance those skills, and we can build, sort of have I know a lot of people talk about this kind of concept of growth mindset. I can't do this yet. This is something new to me at the moment, but I can build that courage. I can build those skills to be able to maybe embrace new environments and find new ways of sharing and building competency, but also helping people to perform better in this new world of work. There's a two element in this. How do we enable performance, and how do we build competency and being clear on that?
And Hanu as well, we do have a stream planned for a few on from here. I think not next week, the week after, that's around culture and helping to shift culture in this changing landscape, and it can change daily. So yeah, by all means, please tune back in for that one. We've got another comment here just coming from Anita Page. I've seen people embracing virtual classrooms. Yes, definitely. Virtual classrooms on the up. And in fact, things like the increased use of video on those virtual classrooms or web conference softwares is quite interesting. People would always hide away from their camera. I think overall I was helping people think broad about delivering as a virtual classroom. Yes, completely get that. Completely agree.
Yeah, Anita, I think your the concept of our role in helping people think broader, I think actually is very powerful. But if we're going to help other people to do this, then we also need to be able to do this with learning professionals as well.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to reflect on something that Tom said earlier as well about, people are making very rapid decisions now potentially about learning technology platforms, which is great. But I've spent 30 years working with learning technology, and the tools alone do not deliver the result.
No.
Pushing things out there, getting people engaging with them, don't deliver the results on their own. The way that we use them, so your comment, Anita, about thinking broader, I think applies to them, not just about delivering back to classrooms. How do we facilitate social connections using these tools in a learning context? How do we actually help people apply what they're learning and what they're thinking into their immediate context and situation and see a change in the output? These are all ideas where we need to really be and I think if there is so much out there to be able to curate and to learn from other people. A lot of the reports that I've written in the past, if you look on my own LinkedIn profile, there's quite a lot about this journey from just taking what we had and sticking it in line to actually really influencing culture and change. And I think that's really important for us as learning professionals to start to embrace the role of change agents that potentially we could play. And I'm certainly seeing some learning professionals who had already taken on that mantle, felt that this new environment was very natural for them. And other learning professionals who traditionally have created that struggling. So, that as you go through that transition to learn and your mind broadens and let those, then actually it helps you to learn to be as well.
Laura, we seem to have lost your audio. Or at least I seem to. Oh no, you're back. You're back. I can hear you now.
Back. Okay.
Sorry. Just to reiterate or build on that point as well about technology not being the key to solution. Cards on the table, everybody. I work for a technology provider. Valamis is an LXP, but I too would never argue that it's the sole way to get to the solution. It's about pulling everything together that you have, the content, the platform, and then the way you use it in communications and creating an overall experience for people that takes place outside and on platform and within content. So it can be a challenge, particularly for those people that are maybe new to doing things like this, but that's the purpose of the stream like this, to share best practice, the audience to get involved, and for us to kind of go where you need us to go in terms of providing you some guidance potentially. And obviously there's huge amounts of stuff out there on the web that can help with that as well. I can see you've got another comment in the chat here from Hanu, seems to be around engaging students. As I said, we're going to do a stream on that specifically. So I think what would be really good is, rather than try and capture everything in this stream, if we come back to that, but definitely we're recording this, we'll take this back and we'll incorporate that into that stream and subsequent streams where anything's relevant as well. But yes, perfect. One question I'd actually like to pose to the audience at this point is, what do you think we need to focus on and prioritise today? I think Laura and I have our own opinions on this, but you in the audience, what do you think do we need to prioritise on? And see where we go. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Laura another question whilst you maybe think about that point, which is, what are the most valuable lessons, Laura, that we can learn from the research that you've conducted in the past, and that we shouldn't ignore moving forward? Obviously, bearing in mind that what has been researched isn't exactly going to marry up now to the world in which we currently live. Things have shifted somewhat from the environments in which you were doing that research.
Well, I started a research program into how learning professionals can use technology to deliver value back to business back in 2002. and I headed that up until February of last year. So during that longish piece of research, we had hit a number of different recessions and ups and downs in the economy are admittedly not perhaps as vital as the one that we're seeing at the moment. But I think there are some things that we learned. One of the things that we learned was those high-performing organisations, learning teams in that environment focused on relevance. They focused on listening to business leaders and understanding what was needed or what needed in.
Can anybody hear me on stream specifically? I can hear a yes. Yeah,
Hi,
people are coming through now.
Thank you. We've got some people. Can anyone hear me as well? Hey.
So there's a yes to me. Oh, everyone's
Yay,
back. There we go.
Thank you.
Let's mute that.
Thank you.
Who knows what's happening there?
Thank you, Anita, for your acknowledgement there. And I think that's probably also as a skill is to realise that actually it doesn't always work, but how do you keep bouncing back with that and know when to stop and know when to start again, because this is our lifeblood now, and we really appreciate your thoughts and views on this. I was saying before about, just because I know that we're going to be wrapping soon, chat. I'll go on to chat.
Odd.
Tom, I can hear you. So why don't you tell us about what's coming up next, and I'll add a few things into chat right now because obviously it's a connection with me that's difficult. But
you're back again, Laura. They can hear you now.
Yeah.
Thank you for bearing with us, everybody. With
your tolerance, but even we want to continue this. So I'd love to continue this conversation still through on LinkedIn if anyone wants to connect with me individually, or let's open that up. But I will also add a few more things into the chat room now about things I think we need to be thinking about moving forwards, and love to know about how you are going to be working in some of those areas. So this is all research and evidence based. I'm going to put it into the chat room now, and I'm going to let Tom roll up and fold up this level of conversation, and we'll work on it the next time. So from me, if you can still hear me, thank you so much. I'm going to head off into the chat now.
Yeah, again, thank you everybody for bearing with us there. I don't quite know why the why the audio decided to drop out. My software's telling me it's network issues, but who knows? We'll sort that out though for next time, or we'll do our best to do that. As I said throughout this, we are planning to run a series of these 2 a week for the next few weeks at least. It is going to culminate in a webinar, but if these prove successful, who knows? Maybe we'll continue them beyond this, and we don't know how long this current situation of self-distancing, or social distancing should I say, and the lockdown, at least in the UK and across Europe and other parts of the world like the US, is going to happen. So please feel free to get in touch. Laura and I can obviously be found on LinkedIn. We'd be keen to hear your thoughts about where you want these things to go. As I said, we have a schedule. They're covering topics that are covering things like instructional design principles. I've already mentioned common strategies, leveraging potential platform capabilities around data, improving the value of what you're doing. But really, it's going to be driven by where you want to go as the audience. So please let us know where you'd like to go. And thank you for everybody that's contributed.